turn. We don't have that many crowd.
Sorry.
Excuse me. So you have to really blow up today, or you said that? Did you have something to blow up, you said?
They just, something's wrong with it. Yes. Hi, Jimmy. How are you? Good. Did you have a busy weekend?
Yes, sir.
Yay. That's good.
You and Wendell were shorts.
Not today.
So then Jimmy's the crazy one today.
Not today.
Yeah.
Somehow it dropped quickly yesterday.
Sure did. I was in shorts for a while.
Felt good to stretch the shorts out.
You guys ready? Council, if you turn on your mics, please.
Do I have to?
11 o'clock, we're calling the meeting to order. It's a special town council meeting to go over a few items. I hear a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Wendell moved, Widener second. Any conversation? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We have a consent agenda. We neglected to make a motion for a first alternate on our Board of Adjustments at our last council meeting. Cindy Keller was nominated, and she has since removed herself because she'll be moving out of town limits. Jennifer Laverack has expressed interest in serving, and she seems to be very good for that position. So do I hear a motion to nominate Jennifer Laverack to the first alternate position for the Board of Adjustment?
So moved.
Barry moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Wendell second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. The next big part of this meeting will be the approach to the landing zone down at Buckeye Recreation Center. And for those of you who may not be aware, that is used in emergencies so that wings can be called in and a patient can be flown to hospital much quicker than they can be taken by ambulance. Very important, very, very important project. Mr. Holloman?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm turning it over to Riley. He's got double duty today. He's going to kind of give you some history of that project, and then if there's anything I need to add, I'll follow up with that.
Okay, what you see is not we originally had decided to put in just a road into the ball field. We started talking about it, and then we decided maybe we ought to expand it to a wider. We were looking at a 10-foot, approximately 215 feet of roadway into the ball field. We've now said, you know, if we're going to have events down there, we may need to use that as overflow parking. Events, a lot of times people come and go, so we need to make a wider road than a 10-foot right-of-way to go through. So we expanded it to a 20-foot versus a 10-foot, and the same length of about 215 feet. So that's what you see now. So when we came up with that cost of $42,000 approximately, we were talking about a 10-foot right of way going into the, you know, into the ball field. So we expanded that. I also asked that we put 3 electrical pipes under the road for down the road if we want to light that area up. So the pipe will be there so we wouldn't have to tear up the roadway to put electrical power through under the road. So we're just going to bury 3 4-inch electrical conduits so they'll be there was the idea of that. So down the road we can then, if we want to put in some street lights or whatever, they'll be there. Not that we have to use all 3 of them or whatever, but also the road has got a 2% grade to the tennis courts, and if you'll notice, there is a drainage ditch with the little arrows going across there that goes to a culvert up here towards the front, and then if you went all the way across the backside, there's another drainage culvert there. So this water will take, or the water will go to those drains and then on out under the the original parking lot for the town, or for the rec center. What we did, we bid it out. This is the second time we bid it out. The first time we bid it out, we got no bids at all. We did have some people inquire about it, approximately 4 contractors, but as trying to get it done before winter, they said they had the workload that I contacted and said that there's no way with what all they already have on their plate that they could do that before winter. So then we opted to go ahead and try another bid in February, advertised it approximately 3 weeks to make sure everybody put it in the paper and everything to make sure. And I called around to the contractors so they knew that we were going to bid this out to try to do this as soon as the weather breaks for us and try to get it done before the rec center starts with their big summer programs and that sort of thing. So we bid it out. We ended up with only 2 bids. And I think you know the bids. It's the M&M Construction bid it out at $93,480, and ACT Construction bid $85,122. With the engineering firm that we used, Weathers and Ravenel, with sending them the documentation of the bids, they rejected ACT's bid due to the fact that he did not fill it out correctly. He did not have all the paperwork in that needed to be turned in, and they recommended that we not accept their bid. So then we only had the 1 bid. The next thing we did, just to see, we went back through and I said, well, what happens instead of the, what I call the paver 2, it's not an AstroTurf, but it is a turf that we have that would be able to drive over and support the weight of the fire trucks and that sort of thing. There's some, if you'll drop it down a little bit more, other way, if you would, Tim, it'll actually show the plastic coming a little bit more. It should be right. Well, maybe it isn't on that one. I'm sorry, I thought it showed the actual, there it is right there, okay. This is the type of plastic that you put down, then you embed that with the sand, and then you grow your turf over the top of that. What I've been reading about is a lot of your big cities and all, to get their green space in, they're using a lot of this now for their fire lanes, where one, you know how people always try to park in a fire lane, so it's now grass, so they don't think about, they can't park there. So they're using this now as for fire lanes, and it will support fire truck. They have a picture there on up that they show a ladder truck actually being set up. Right, one more, there it is, with the fire truck sitting, ladder truck sitting up, And so with that is that. We decided also to get us a secondary price if we wanted just to pave it with a 20-foot wide, 2 inches of asphalt with an 8-inch stone base above what the engineers recommended as our base to begin with before we put the poly grass down. And that price came in at $76,280 with 2 inches of I2 asphalt.
So instead of grass, it would just be asphalt.
It would just be asphalt.
Did we ask M&M to do that as well? Just asphalt?
That's who I got the bid
Oh, that
price
is who.
from M&M.
That's right.
Correct.
It was M&M, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
As an alternate to their other bid,
Oh,
is what I did.
so it dropped it a little.
Yeah.
So if you went to M&M for secondary bid for the asphalt, could you have not gone back to ACT and allowed them?
Well, they didn't produce the paperwork for the first bid. So that's why I didn't go to them on the second bid, due to the fact that they didn't have all their paperwork that showed everything that they needed to have for the first bid.
So how did this go from LZ to where we are now?
It was never an LZ.
It was
Yeah,
supposed to-
it was
supposed
just,
to be-
the
supposed
road
to be-
into the ball field is what we were calling, I was always calling it the LZ right-of-way.
Correct.
Into the LZ, which we would use the ball field to land the helicopter on.
And we knew it was gonna be a significant investment, so we thought, well, if we can make a significant investment for 10 feet, why not actually have that usable space out there instead of have to come back at a later time and pay double and widen it at a later time?
And you're thinking about the future, because parking was not really considered as much with the rec center. We all know when there's events down there, there's not enough parking.
Correct.
And so you've got parking up and down the driveways and up and down, Pine Ridge and the offshoot roads there. So in my opinion, as this town has done from its inception, it has not really thought out where you want to put stuff and like was up at the top of the mountain, the best place for public works, probably not, but that's where we put it. So they put the rec center down below. Parking wasn't a big consideration. Now you're thinking towards the future, in my opinion, is that with the softball field, you don't have to have people parking and walking in the roads at night. They'll be parking there instead.
And also with the Shane Park, when it's developed,
Right.
you'll have more parking there too, even if we offer shuttles down to the park or something.
So,
Sorry.
no, go ahead.
On the other bid, there was a talk about drainage, talking about drainage boxes to carry off standing water, and talking about the pitch of the ground is going to require drain boxes and piping.
There is 2 drain boxes located already on site. There is one, if you go back to your plans, there's one at the front of the tennis court, and then there's one on around to the back corner of the tennis court. So the idea is the water, and these will be graded back again, so the water will drain towards these catch basins, as I call them. The water will drain back to the catch basins and then go out.
And rightly too, on the alternate bid we got for the pavement, the drainage work and the sloping is still gonna have to be done. That was not left out.
Correct,
if
correct.
it was paving.
Well, I guess my question is, being out there this weekend with all the rain, that's called Swamp City.
Yeah, it's correct.
The current drains don't work
Yeah, well, that's-
where they're located.
Well, that's my point.
I went out there yesterday, and I am with pictures, and took pictures of, I mean, it's a swamp.
Right, that's my point.
That's why I say those, if you'll look at in the description and putting in the roadway, those will be dug, the 2 ditch lines will be dug back out where they'll gravity feed to the 2 drains.
But the land itself I mean, we've always had a problem out there as far as it not being firm.
Correct.
So the question is, if we put asphalt on top of that,
Well, that'll be dug out and the base will be built back up.
how far down do we have to go to get solid?
It's in the plan.
Yeah.
8 inches.
Was it 12 inches or something like
It's
that?
12, yeah, I know, it's 12 inches enough, it's
Well, it just depends if you believe the contractor.
right.
I mean, do you let the contractor decide what he thinks it should be? And
I'm wondering if we shouldn't reopen the bid again for other contractors, rather than just have one person do it.
The council can reject the bids, that's one of the things, but, as Riley already talked to you about, this is the second time we've done this.
Well, the first time nobody was interested because they had too much work.
And
We're coming into spring, people are gonna be looking for work.
we can rebid it, but my feeling right now is that if we rebid it, we could get some, Charlotte contractors in different places, and they're probably gonna bid at $150,000, it's gonna be double, but if council decides they wanna reject the bids, that's one of the things the engineers recommend we do, that's an option.
I think that, I took an engineer down there to look at it, and he said you guys must have a lot of money to be able to hire an engineer to do a project this insignificant. So I reached out to RC Excavating and went down there with him yesterday, and we looked at it. I think that we need to go back to his original bid a year ago. I guess whenever you guys met was $42,000. So I think it was initially intended to be a LZ, a stabilization project, for the fire truck. And, we need to, I think, get dialed back into what the original project is supposed to be intended for. And I'd rather see us spend $42,000 rather than 76 or 95 or 100, whatever it potentially be. It's way too much money. We have other projects that are more pressing than this. I support spending $42,000 for the stabilization project, but nothing more than that.
I believe that's short-sighted, Widener. As they've looked at with the parking issue, if we're gonna do the project, increasing it to 20 foot allows us to open access for parking in the field and do it properly, as opposed to having to go back when we realize that's the only solution to parking down there and re-spend the same money.
It's not being.
A little forward thinking when we attack this project is better than trying to say, we're meeting the goal of providing access to the landing zone. But that doesn't have to be the only thing accomplished if we're gonna take on a project of this size.
I agree. I think it is short-sighted. I think that the town has been based on short-sightedness on some issues, of course not on purpose, but it just turns out that way. And if we can get a really good access to the landing zone, which is foremost, the most important thing, but also achieve additional parking for the rec center, for those that go down to the rec center when there are events, there is a parking problem. And so I do believe that, yes, we're spending extra money, but we're spending it for a purpose. The landing zone to be the priority, but also to gain additional parking so that it's safe for people when they go to the rec center and they're not walking on roads to get to an event. I think that going back to a single lane is I just don't think that's a good idea, because then you're, like Carl said, then you're just going to end up addressing parking at another time, and then it's going to cost you more money because you're going to have to figure something out completely.
Chief Pudney, I have a question for you. So since this is a number one priority to have this stabilization project, how much input have you had on this?
Chief, would you come up with this microphone, please?
I pick them out.
Okay.
I'm not sure I understand the question. I requested this 4 years ago,
And every year since then, I've put it in the budget in various places. It's been in the fire department budget, it's been in Parks and Rec, it's been in administration. I had Public Works agree to build it. I met with council numerous times and told you how important it was.
So when you met with Public Works, why didn't it get built in?
I'm the fire chief.
So again, with the current project that is being bid now, how much input have you had on this project?
The plans and specifications,
Anything? Communication between either council or whomever is responsible for this project? Town officials, how much input have you had on this project?
well, plans and specifications, none. I'm really not sure what you're asking. The project, the impetus of the project comes from me. I'm the one that asked for it, and continuously asked for it, and have been asking for it. And I have communicated with the manager, again this year, and when we do our capital plan, communicated with Riley. But on the plans and specifications, making it 20 feet, putting grass, no.
So if this is a priority for the fire department, I don't see why you weren't involved in this process. Whether it's 10 feet, 20 feet, I mean, this is for the fire department.
What's your
Commissioner,
point?
let me ask for something here.
I wanna know what his input-
Bob was contacted several times, showed him the plans and everything to make sure he didn't have any objections to the plans. He had no objections to the plans. Let's go back in history and look at some of this stuff. What he talked about when Public Works was asked to pave it, that was actually even before I got here. The previous council decided, no, we don't want ugly asphalt in front of the nice green rec building, so that stopped. So that stopped there. I've only been here 2 years. My first year here, we revived it. I looked through all the capital projects that had never been done, that kind of thing. It came up again. The prior council didn't believe engineering was important either, so it went to the back, burn. This year, this council recognized it being important. We spent about $8,300 on engineering, not 17. That's a higher bid, came out last time. So the council in March authorized the engineering. We bid in September. So really, I'm looking at this project, it's taking less than 1 year to go from now to hopefully construction sometime soon. It is very important, but anyway, that's my answer to your question, whether you like it or not, that's my answer.
If I could interject, I think the only input from the fire department has been, we need this. We need access to the ball field. As far as the fire department is concerned, 1 lane wide is sufficient to get you to and from the ball field. We have decided, or bid it out to expand it to 2, to get multiple use out of it, to have access for other purposes. But I don't think you'd ever have involvement in the engineering.
No.
No.
Your main goal is to get it done one way or another.
So on here, thank you, Chief. So another question is that the contractor shall be responsible for constructing the proposed sewer system improvements with minimum disturbances. What is that going to entail?
Sewer system, that's the drainage.
Just the drains? Okay. So that's going to be the additional, will that be additional drains that will be installed?
It's the drainage as guys already specified. I don't think there's initial junction box. I think most of it's grading and other work.
And it says something in here. It said the specifications will meet the standards of the city of Salisbury.
They took their generic, the Rebels and Ravenel took their generic bid scopes and plugged it in and didn't change that same, where they used that same kind of bid form and that aspect of it, where it said that is a problem.
So we're paying them $18,500 and they can't even,
$18,500.
I think I just clarified, we paid $8,300 for that, and that's a typo. We apologize for not catching that, but I would like you, appreciate to use the correct numbers from now on. You've known since last week, it's been $8,300. Please use the correct numbers.
well, you got to give them to us correctly first, because Some point in time, I was told $60,000.
All right, it's
No, I'm talking.
$8,500. I know you're
Don't
talking.
interrupt me, please.
I am interrupting you. It was
Okay, go ahead.
$8,500. Let's move on with the plan.
Okay, so at some point in time, I was told 60, so that's fine. Then in one of our council meetings, I was told, no, it wasn't 60, it was 18,500. So then, 2 days later, I get an email and it says, no, it wasn't 18,500, it was 8,500. So if you want to tell me to get the numbers right, then you need to give them to us right.
So, moving on with the plan. Is there any other discussion? Do you want to take a vote to either move forward, how you want to move forward, 1 lane, 2 lanes, asphalt?
Reject the bid.
Madam Mayor,
Get another bid? Yes, sir.
before you, you do have bids that you've received. Council does have the option to reject all bids if you wish to do that, or to require bidding for different designs.
Right.
If you wish to proceed with the current bid, and your recommendation from your engineer is to reject the contracting bill as non-responsive, by statute, you have to go with the lowest responsible bidder. So whatever motion, if you wish to proceed with what you have, would require you to find that the contracting bid is not responsive.
In a separate motion?
It could be in a separate motion or in one motion, just so long as there is a finding by council that that is non-responsive, if you wish to go forward with the higher M&M bid.
I understand.
Thank you, ma'am.
My problem with putting it back out for bid is then we're into the spring or summer and we further delay accomplishing what is the stated main goal. I remain convinced that if we're going to do it, an eye to the future and doing the 20-foot, and the project as Riley described with the grass turf, while more expensive, fits our longer-term goal down there and is not poorly spent money. So I would be of a mindset that we reject the act bid as non-responsive and accept the responsive bid.
Is that your motion?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Wendell, second. Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Before we find, what are we moving on? With the grass or the asphalt?
With the
No,
grass.
strictly, at this point, strictly to reject the act bid.
And accept the,
And
and
accept-
accept the responsive, you know, the engineer's determined responsive bid.
With the grass.
With the grass.
With the grass. I think that's worth the additional money as opposed to pavement, you know, for what we want to accomplish down there long-term with parking and the tie-in to Shane Park. You know, whether it was placed properly or not, we do have it, so, you know, let's have an eye to the future and make it meet the needs of both the fire department and the needs of the recreation center moving forward.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All against, say nay.
Nay.
There's 4 ayes and 1 nay. The motion carries. We'll move forward with the plan with M&N, and hopefully it'll be done in a few months, and we will have a lovely access for the helicopter. Next on the agenda is the council at their last meeting indicated we wanted to do a golf cart committee because of the highly, I'm trying to come up with the words, having golf carts go on Beech Mountain. And it was considered that input from citizens is one way to deal with this. We could make a decision, but we are always actively looking for input from citizens. So we had asked people to put applications together, and we received, I believe, 10 applications. One of those had rescinded his name from the process, and we came up with a list of the folks that we would want to put on the golf cart committee. That list was Urs Steiger, Brian Barnes, Linda Strom, Carol Beckman. I'm having a moment here.
Chamberlain,
Harriet Chamberlain, Shelley Hall,
Jana Greer.
and
No, she didn't make it.
Burg.
Dr. Burke. That's correct. Thank you. And does anybody else want to talk about any other people, or do I hear a motion to accept those appointees to the golf cart committee?
Well, it went from 10, one
To
dropped
7,
out,
right.
then we had a total of 9. From that, we selected 7.
7.
Yeah.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Carl moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Wendell second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Tim, will you
We'll reach out with them to start trying to set up meetings
quickly as possible?
as quickly as possible, and we'll also try to have Fort at most of those meetings too. So we'll send out something, hopefully we can meet in the next 10 to 12 days and get our first meeting started.
Sooner than that if possible. It's
If
real important
possible.
to get this, get something back from this committee so that the folks at the club or whoever on this mountain know what we're dealing with, and then the council can make a decision before the club opens.
At that first meeting,